Content warning. The Wards of the State podcast may contain material that may be harmful or traumatizing to some audiences. Listener discretion is advised. Hey Light Shiners, welcome back to another amazing episode of Wards of the State. We are almost coming up to our 100th, oh God, that just took me the hell out, 100th episode. I am so excited, y'all. This has been we're going on 4 years of providing amazing stories from lived experience from kids and people who've experienced it. We've even started opening up once a year to have parents, biological parents, be on the show and sharing their stories in May. Even though we only do that once a year, y'all, because you know what, who's important? The kids, okay? Our stories are important. But once a year, we'll give y'all May. We'll give y'all May. But I want to continue, guys. There's so many episodes. I'm sure you haven't listened to them all. And if you have you left me a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-star rating and review? Okay, I need that review so other people can know to come to this show and really express. Don't just leave a 5-star. Put some comments in there. Let them know what you like, what you don't like, what you want to improve, because I also look at the comments. So if you guys want me to improve on something, if I'm talking too fast, I know some people say I was cutting people off. Somebody did take me up on that, and they're like, Carlos, you be cutting people off. So I'm working on it. Let me help you help me. Okay. But I want to thank everybody for just continuing to come back every single week to listen to this podcast. It is my pleasure to continue to be able to share the lived experience of all of the children and former foster youth and adoptees and people who've experienced external childcare, because their voices are important. And not everybody wants to build a platform, because guess what? Them platforms, they be looking good until you be seeing them comments that we got to deal with. Okay, be careful what you wish for. But I do think there should be a safe environment where people can share their stories without having to deal with the world questioning them, right? And that's what we provide here. We provide an hour for you guys to listen to the stories of people with lived experience in the child welfare system that is unadulterated, that is pure, that is just them. It's their truth. So I want to thank you guys for that. Also, make sure that you are following us on YouTube. We are now going live on YouTube. So make sure you're subscribing on YouTube. If you want to watch the podcast live when I record them, you can watch them. I believe we record every Tuesdays and Thursdays. So every Tuesdays and Thursdays, we do our live recording. The shows do come out on Fridays. So if you want to catch it early, that's the way to catch it early for free. Otherwise, you'll have to wait until Friday for it to come out on YouTube, edited. Also, it's unedited live, y'all. So if you want to watch the unedited version, make sure you're checking out the YouTube. And finally, make sure that you are subscribing to us on Spotify and sharing with your family and friends. So those are all the updates that we have for now. One last update I do have to say, if you guys are still waiting for your second book for my memoir series, Word of the State, thank you so much for your patience. They are coming. With the fires in California and everything, it has been crazy getting them delivered. So we will have them to you. Please I'm going to just now push it to February, the first week of February. I do appreciate your patience and I do appreciate your support. So thank you guys so much. And without further ado, I do want to introduce our next guest, Lisa. Hey, Lisa, how are you doing?
I'm well, thank you. How are you doing?
I am blessed and highly favored. So let's just hop right into it. You were in the child welfare system. Start with your story. What landed you in the child welfare system?
I was born in Southern California to a teen mom, and later on in life, I found out she had a 3-year-old when I was born. She was about 15, 16. I guess with the first child, her parents said, oh, it's okay, they'll go with the grandma. And then she moved from her mother's house in LA, my mother, and to her father's house down in San Diego after they split up. Here's my mom with my grandfather, and he had no idea she was pregnant till the day I was born. She said I was born, she couldn't remember if I was born in the morning or the evening, but when I caught up with her, she had said that I was born early in the morning. It had to be, because he came out the house, looked at the ambulance, and turned around and kept it moving, like went about his day. He was so upset. Like it was just like she was trouble for them. But I spent one day with her in the hospital, maybe the second day. The first day she didn't want to see me. She didn't want to, hold me or anything like that. I guess it's very traumatizing to her as well. And they said the second day she had to identify me for our identifying information and things like that, because she had already made the decision that they weren't going to accept me, and she had to interview several families to place me.
Now, was there a reason that you knew that they weren't going to, that she just didn't want the baby at the time?
Now that I talked to my biological family, I found them in my 20s. Now that I've talked to them, it was just very hush hush. She was living a little fast out there. I don't know what the situation was for my grandparents to have split up and moved so far away and all that. So I'm sure my mom went through plenty of things that she had to work through in other ways. She was working full-time at Wendy's, or part-time rather, at Wendy's, and she was in school. So it wasn't like she was in the streets for real.
She was just a young girl.
Just a young girl, gorgeous young girl. I saw her, I was like, when I saw her picture at 14, I was like, oh, no wonder you was out here. She looked really
streets.
mature. Yeah, she looked really cute. Really, she was very attractive, and from what I've read in my adoption paperwork, she was very smart at that time. She was very mature for her age, and that's never an excuse for any type of abuse or anything like that, or for victim blaming or anything like that. But she had been through some things, and I don't think she's ready to talk about those things. But I've also cut her off here in the last year because you always think that when you find your family, you hope they're inviting and they love you, and you hope you find them. And I got used a little bit already. Just she struggled. She she kept having kids. All the high hopes I had for her, looking for her and growing up, they didn't match up. They never, I was excited.
Let's talk about that for a second.
Yes,
so have you ever seen the movie Antoine Fisher?
Actually, no, I haven't seen it since I was a little girl. I don't remember.
So do you remember? If you remember, there's a scene when he finds his birth family and they have like this big old kitchen or like dining room full of a bunch of soul food, and like all of his parents and family are there. You'll have to watch it again. That's like what I thought my reunification was going to be like. I was like, there's going to be like a house full of people just waiting there with their arms open. My great grandma's going to be there. Like, yeah, like, but that's not how it works. You know what's crazy? So when my reunification, it wasn't like that at all. And I understand you when you say when you go back and you kind of feel like there are burdens. Because when I reunified, I was so happy to find my family. But like the first thing they asked me was, hey nephew, can I hold $20? Like,
right. Wait a minute. I'm so sorry, honey.
Can you help me? Can you put some on the light bill? I just drove 26 hours to come meet y'all. I haven't seen you in 17 years. And the first thing you asked me is put $20 on the light bill? Okay, I see how this is going.
And at least I feel like at least they were upfront with their intentions, because I kind of got duped. I got duped. I feel like they took advantage of that, me being excited. And I'm sure that that's what they did with you is they took it. They knew you were excited. They knew you wanted to belong. And with a lot of our relationships, even with adoptive parents and friends, people that you meet on that journey, they're taking advantage of the fact that you want love, that you need someone, to confide in. So, when you're, honey, finding my adoptive parents to be unfit after all these years of them being big federal agents. My parents were, they had a really good job.
Let's roll back because we kind of got sidetracked. So
sure did.
You're at the hospital. Yeah. Your mom was looking through the books of people. That's where she found your...
Honey, she said she interviewed 5 families, but growing up, they were so abusive to me, saying nobody else wanted you. We had to come get you from a foster care lady, and she was so old, and she could barely take care of you. Like, they fed me this big, crazy story that I was so unwanted and such a burden to strangers.
Now, were your parents white or black or Latino, Chinese?
My adopted father is white and black. He doesn't admit to being fully white or Caucasian because I have no idea why. They're all pale. Like, he's mixed or whatever.
Are they phenotypically white? Like, if you look at that, you're like, that's a white man. Or is it like,
in the photos, yeah. In his family photos from the past, yeah, they're like transparent. And you're like, my grandfather's white, and he's like, no. Like, I'm like, I don't know how, like, he's not very open about his family history, as if he doesn't love him. Like, my father has this complex, like, he preferred to be a white man. He's born 57. So I don't know what that means as far as the times and, the country, because I was born in California, but my adopted parents met in San Diego doing Border Patrol. They were Border Patrol agents. It's just it was hard growing up with people that aren't culturally aware of their own selves. They don't love themselves, or my father didn't love himself as a Black man. It's always these iggers, this with the hard R, the hard ER. Yeah, he
But that's
was.
a white man.
Yeah, and I loved him. I tried to respect him, whoever he wanted to be you so I could be me type of thing. But it was never that, And I seen with other families on this show that's what it is. If you're not following their rules, you're not marching at the beat of their drum, you're a problem. And it's like you have everybody else doing something that's not appropriate around you, but as soon as you do something, oh, you're a big burden to everybody. And you're this and that. And it's like, dang, before I'm 10 years old, before I'm in double digits, that's crazy. But so my parents met in San Diego. I'm not sure why you would adopt a child in the beginning of your career.
Did they have any children before they adopted you?
My mother had 3 sons. She had left in Virginia. She had 3 boys. Yeah, and they were 2 years apart. I think the youngest one was 9 years older than he's about 7 to 9 years old. I can't remember because he was my first molester. I don't focus on him too much, but he's a very big deal in this story, which I'm grateful to share. My parents, they married and worked in the Border Patrol with none of the children. My mother's children were with their father. My father didn't have any children at the time. And so they worked as those agents. And then I really feel like as I've been confronting my dad now, it's a lot about money. It was just all about money. It was never about needing and wanting a child, loving a child.
So was your adoption private or through the foster care system?
Now that I'm older and realize it was private because of how I tried to retrieve my information. That's how I found out. But they would make it like, oh, you were in the foster care system for 2 years. And I probably was. But they also turn around and say, oh, well, we've had you your whole life. Since you were tiny little.
Both stories could be true, right? True. So you could have been removed from your mother's care and placed into foster care while your parents went through the adoption process, right? Which could take 6 months to 2 years. So technically they've had you, so they were doing visitations. They had like weekend visitations when you and your infant, right? But that process, if it wasn't a private adoption, like a specific private adoption. Also, you said that because of the money, did they get paid for your adoption?
See, that's what I'm trying to figure out now, because my mother will say one thing, but it's like nobody has real knowledge of what happened. Oh, I don't remember, when it comes to me trying to find out things. And then when I say, oh, well, this doesn't make sense, why would this happen? And they'll pin it on someone else. Like, oh, no, the last argument I had with my dad, I was like, you literally adopted me to receive money, to help you and your new wife maintain a household while y'all build your own legacy or wealth or whatever. And he was like, no, that wasn't me, that was your mother. I was like, wait, what?
So he didn't deny it.
He did not. And that's where the EPO kind of took place the next day, because he was like, I will shoot you. Like, every time I tell him,
okay, so now what is the EPO?
So that just ended. I just got the letter for it. That I closed the case on the 9th because I didn't want to see him again. We've been in no contact for 5 months since August, and August 9th, I got a new job that day. I went, like, I could no longer rely on him or anyone else, and I'm on foot. I don't have a vehicle, so I'm trying to find jobs, and I find one that day. They're like, hey, go down to this office and sign up. So I hurried up and signed up. It was the first day of school for the kids as well, and so I'm calling my dad's retired. He's a retired federal agent, and I called him, and knowing he was already helping my sister out with her son getting to and from school, I thought, hey, they want me to start this job, I need the money, can you please pick my son up after school, because I start at 5 right after his bus gets there. And he's like, yeah, whatever. He has a little attitude, but he was like, yeah, sure, we'll do. He goes and gets the baby. I'm at work, and I called to check to see if he's got my son, and he's like, yeah, I got him, but I can't keep doing this. And bro, one, I haven't worked in 2 months, and that's a long time for me because of the last job playing games with me and not fitting my kid's schedule. 2, I never asked you. He didn't even know my bills were late 2 months. And all these things, I'm not giving you my problems. I'm just trying to find solutions to them. And he spazzed out on me. And I'm like, well, I just got here. Thank you for getting my son. We'll talk about this after work because it's my first day and you're giving me crap. So hung up with him, finished my shift. It was only 4 hours long, 4-hour shift. And when I got off work, I was able to, it's within 5 minutes distance of my home. So I'm calling before I leave the building. Hey, I'm ready. I'm getting off now. Can you please bring him? I already have trust issues with him. So I'm trying to get my son back before 9 p.m. because it's a school night. And this is my first time not doing the dinner thing. he's giving me crap like I'm just putting too much on him. And I'm like, I haven't even talked to you really all summer. I haven't asked you for anything. And when I did tell you my bills were behind and you knew I wasn't working, you offered to pay one of them, which is great. I had to I'm going insane, please help me out. I told you what my problems were, you ignored them. So now I'm like begging. So he helped with one of the bills, which was the light bill. I was grateful, went to work that day, got home. My son didn't come home until almost 10 o'clock at night. And you knew 2 hours ago, I was on my way home. It took 5 minutes. And so I'm waiting on my son. I finally calmed down from being upset because I can't work like this. I can't even start a new job and I don't feel supported. I don't feel loved. And it's been like this for 30 plus years. So I was waiting for him to pull up. I saw those lights pull up outside. I was outside at the door waiting for them like, Dad, I've been wanting to say this for a long time. I don't feel supported. I don't trust you. I'm unhappy. And every time I start something, you guys come in and y'all say, oh, y'all can't help me, that you're fully retired. And that's not, I can't tell you what to do with your schedule, with your time. But if I see you helping my sister, you're offering this help that she doesn't even really need. She works from home. So, it's kind of like I don't have
Now,
childcare.
Is your sister adopted as well?
No, she's 2 years younger than me. They end up having a child after.
Now, that answers the question right there. Duh.
Yes. That's his first and only child, biological child. And also my mother.
Did you feel that through?
Honey. And I never took that out on her. I always defended her. I was her big sister. I love being the big sister, and he plays that, he uses that against me. Like, oh, you're just jealous of her. You're jealous. We won't even be talking about her. And he'll say, well, you're just jealous of your sister. And it's like, you're the one that plays us against each other. She confides in me when she's being bullied by her own biological father. He calls her fat and belittles her. And when she needs help, like she'll go through all of that. She's fine with that. I'm fine with not talking to you for 2 to 6 months till you get your act right. I don't need you. I prefer to have you in my life because you're the only person I've ever known to call a father. Even when I thought I found my biological father back in California, because I'm in Kentucky now. I found all my biological family and they're still in California or Alaska or somewhere close to where I originated. It's really hard because, like y'all said, with the slavery thing, the adoption versus slavery thing, I've been saying that for years now. And I felt guilty for saying that. But I've been comparing my life to like when they was trying to force Kunta to say his name is Toby. I had to be.
Your name's Toby.
Like,
your name's Toby.
I didn't know that I had a birth name. I didn't even know that my mother held me until I was in my 20s. Like, I didn't know. They said she didn't care about me. She was a hoe and she was this and that. It's like they wanted me to have zero identity. Took my name, changed my name. Because at first it seemed sweet. Like, oh, you want a new baby and you want the baby to be special to you and the family name and stuff. Randy is a great uncle I have that I met once. He lived in New York. We never got to go visit him in New York. It's like, it's not even special really. So it's like, why would you change my name? And it's ugly. I'm not gonna say Randy's ugly. It's just, I always got teased as it being a boy name, my first fight came from
in 2025, Randy's kind of cute. And then,
they
didn't even spell it cute. They didn't even spell it too cute.
No, it's so, oh my God. So I'm super grateful for the whole experience, but it starts off like being in California. Life is great. It was beautiful. I went with that family. I didn't know I was adopted till we moved out of California at 7, 8 years old. That's when I started asking questions like, y'all pale, like y'all light skinned, I'm dark skinned, and my sister
were you the only dark skinned? Are you the only dark skinned sibling? Are your brothers also light skinned?
My stepbrothers are, because I'm Black and Cuban. That's what my parents were mixed with, and then my adopted brothers, there's 3 of them that were by the same same pair. Their father's Mexican and my mother's Black. And it was just like, even they were a different tone. They were like either light, like they had a different shade to them, being Afro-Latino and everything. And even still, she left them behind, and they still, when they came back around, I don't know why, my parents decided they wanted to make up for lost times when those guys were in their late teens, early 20s. If you're not in that household raising those kids, just focus on the kids that you got at least right there in front of you. Like, I don't know. It's like they went and took them back in provided education for them. None of them graduated high school. They all had to go get their GEDs and stuff. And in the midst of them trying to make up for lost times with them, I'm getting molested. I'm getting ignored. Like, I'm getting told, like, and then it's like, you're calling me a burden and a liar in front of this said person or these said people. And it's like, they're taking it, they eating that shit. They eating that up, especially when they are probably jealous because I was adopted before they were raised directly from their own parents.
Mm-hmm.
I've been through a lot of thought processes of why I was molested or why my federal agent parents didn't do more to protect me. And honestly, I feel like leaving the situation to analyze it and figure it out. A lot of people don't have the option till later in life, but leaving was the best thing I could do so I can actually have these conversations, see what was going on, so I can raise my kids in a more healthy way. Like, I already love my children harder, more expressive. Like, I let them be them. And like, it's so many things that, like, all the bad things that happened to me made me a better parent.
So let's talk about that, because you're skating around that a little bit, and I do want to hear, because we've heard a lot about the current things that are going on, but what led to this? I know you spoke a little bit about the EPO, but then there was some sexual abuse and scapegoating. So I want to hear about, how was your day to day in this house? We heard a little bit of snippets, but how was your day to day? How did you get through high school? How did you end up a young mother? Right? Right. So I think we ended it around, like, you were adopted, right?
Yeah.
You're in this house, you live in California. How was your day to day?
So the earliest I can remember, I know I was like maybe 2 or 3, and it was just me. And then they had this newborn, and I'm like, okay. And I'm not realizing I'm adopted. So we moved around in California a lot. They went from Border Patrol to, I guess, promotions and stuff to become federal agents. And so we moved around 3 times before I realized, okay, this is my family. This is what's going on. I had me a little dog, a little Dalmatian. I was happy. You know, the first 5 years of my life, awesome. I couldn't ask for a better life. But it was around the time where I guess they started taking my brothers in again, between 12 and 17 at the time, the 3 of them. And they came for the summer times. And we had 3 babysitters that I can remember to this day that were weekly. We had one girl who come if they want to go out at night or work a graveyard shift. She lived across the street. We had a few in the area, in the neighborhoods, and they lived across the street from each other. So if one wasn't home. So one summer they decided the 12-year-old that they'd been estranged from all these years should watch the kids. Mm-hmm. All I remember is like watching Power Rangers and being a kid and enjoying the Cali life. We had a great life in California. I enjoyed being a kid. And I remember we weren't able to go outside with him. We weren't able to like do the stuff we do with other babysitters with him. We had to watch TV in the house and just be in the house. And me being 5, turning 6, and him being 12, it's like he was damn near grown. Like, in my eyes, that's a teenage almost a grown adult. And he must have been doing this for a long time prior, because he just whipped his stuff out, talking about a joystick. And it was just like, what? I went from being a kid in that moment to like going into flight or fight mode. And I just remember snatching up my little sister. You know, she's about 3 at the time or something like that. And I'm like, let's go to my room. And I realized I had like French doors or whatever. Only one of the doors locked. And I was like, fuck, this not gonna work. So we ran through my room. He's like making it a game, chasing us around. And I remember just being locked in that bathroom up the hall till my parents came home. And then they had him watch us the next day. And I just remember like trying to leave little signs to my mom, like shit wasn't right, by leaving my overalls undone. I left them undone after he was doing whatever he was doing. And I just remember my mom looking at me all stupid, like, why are your clothes, like, not even thinking, like, why are your clothes messed up? And I'm like, you figured that out. Like, I'm over like, I don't know. I'm trying to figure. And so I left it alone because he didn't watch us anymore after that. I guess they went home to Virginia or wherever they were from.
And in those 2 days, in those 2 times,
changed my whole life.
Did anything happen in those 2 days, or was it just,
he was just trying to get us to touch his rod or whatever. He was trying to get us, I just remember joystick, like, what? Because back in the day, you remember we had the little Nintendo and all that stuff. So I'm thinking, that ain't no joystick, boo. That ain't it. So I just remember running around like, this is not a fun game, you know, whatever. And that's all he said. He was like, you know, come touch it, you know, whatever, and just had his stuff out. And so I was like, hell no. And I kept it moving. And my parents never put 2 and 2 together. They might have known. Like, I have a feeling after all the time that I spent telling my story, behavioral problems, whatever, even when I told, they threatened to give me a lie detector test, you know, because I didn't put two and two together till, okay, so he left after those 2 days, or just didn't watch us anymore after those 2 days, and then left after the summer. And then we started moving around that year or the following year to get closer to Kentucky, where my parents are from. My adopted parents are from Kentucky and Chicago. So we're going from San Diego to, and my dad stays behind. So we moved to Kansas City with my mom. Then he goes to the academy in Georgia to get a promotion, and we're just left behind. And my mother, honey, she I see why she left them 3 kids in the first place, because when we were alone with her in Kansas, it's like everything flooded to me. That's when I first started getting curious about all the sexual. My parents had sex tapes. They had, you know, the porno, the VHS porn stuff. They had, my dad was open with his Playboys. It was like a trophy catalog. Like, I don't even think he likes women at this. Like, now I feel like it's all a front. I think my parents' marriage was like a front, you know, with the information I've gotten over the years.
You know, there's a Tiffany's episode. Her parents, it sounds very familiar to your story. Her parents got married. They were, I think, in the military or something like that. His mom knew that the man was gay, but he needed a beard. So they got together and then adopted this child so they can have this idea of this, oh, we're a cute little family. And then years later, he ended up leaving the mom for a man. And then Tiffany got abused by the mom. And then that's like her story.
Tiffany,
and then
she
went back home. Then she went back to her dad when he was with his partner. And she said they did pretty good, but it was so much trauma had happened already. So it's and you know, in the 70s and 80s and early 90s, this is what was happening. People couldn't live their true self, right? Especially if you were in the military.
It's so sad because it's even with all the abuse, even with not feeling protected, I hurt more from my father now, finding myself and finding my spiritual, you know, healing and everything like that. I hate that you hate yourself. I hate that you can't be yourself. I hate that you take it out on other people. But it makes me sad for your inner child, because throughout the years, I would watch that Boy Scout documentary, and knowing my daddy, that was his heart right there. He still has little forks and shit they use in the damn woods and stuff, and he clings to that, and he's lightweight a hoarder, sort of. He keeps a lot of stuff and he's like a pack rat. And me seeing how close he is to the outdoors and his whole mentality is he's not healthy. He doesn't keep himself in shape, but he's a camper. He's a Boy Scout. He's always fixing something. He's always doing something. And it's I called him after that documentary. I was washing dishes. I called him a couple years ago after watching it, and I asked him, did something happen to you in Boy Scouts? He said, something happened to my little friend. And what? Nothing happened to your little friend. It didn't happen to you, boo. You must be the little friend, because ain't no way. It messed me up, because throughout the years I started to question my dad's sexuality. And you know, after my parents breaking up, it really started to show he may not like women. He's very mean to women. He doesn't like black women at all.
So you were moving all over the place.
I know.
And
sorry.
No, you're fine. I like to keep it. That's my job, is keeping us on track too. So we're moving all over the place. How long did things start to get rocky? Was it only until your brothers came to live with you guys permanently?
Honey.
Or were things rocky before?
As soon as we moved from California, I was like a punching bag. I was constantly urinating on myself in the night. I wouldn't be on myself in the daytime. Hell, I'm 5, 6, and I wasn't doing it after being potty trained. I wasn't peeing on myself before he came to visit. And I didn't know what was going on. And after a while, I think even after being exposed that I was messing myself in the bed, they didn't put 2 and 2 together. It was just more punishment. It was you're nasty, or you're this and that. And then when they started saying that, instead of trying to figure out what was wrong with me, I started hiding the soiled pull-ups and stuff or whatever. And then that was a phase, because they started realizing, well, of course the smell, I didn't know it as a child, you know, they would still find out. They started to realize something might have been wrong, but they made it it was a psychological thing. I came from a fucked up family. I came from a crazy woman or something like that. They went and got me a CAT scan. They went and did all this at 7 years old. I was like, well, I don't feel like nothing's wrong with me. And I thought I expressed something was wrong when I left my clothes undone and all that, but I didn't know how to tell them what happened. So I just wanted them to kind of guess. And then I just, you know, eventually I tried to train my brain not to, you know, sleep so deep or whatever. And it didn't work out till I told on him years later. That only made it worse for me. As soon as I started asking about my adoption, that's when things started turning left, because I'm starting to wonder about myself more. I was almost 8 years old, and I was almost developed like a 13-year-old, and I started my menstrual whatever. I don't know what to say on here. I
Menstrual
started my
cycle. No,
cycle.
it's an explicit podcast, so you can say whatever you want.
Oh, thank God. So I started my cycle around that time that we moved to Kansas City, and she was preparing me for it. She knew that, I was developing at a fast rate, and she would just take me to the doctor and act like I was just crazy. And then I became a liar with the whole hiding the Pampers, not wanting to be seen that way. I started acting out at school, talking more in class, trying to be the cool girl, stuff like that. And this is very young. So, and we're the only Black families in every neighborhood we've lived in. Like my dad, he wanted to prove that he was worthy. I don't know to whom, but leaving their families behind to pursue their careers, it gave very much they were run away from home. It gave very much they didn't love their life as a child and stuff like that. So anyway, so we moved to Kansas City. I'm starting to see that I have issues that they're telling me I have that I don't I'm kind of understanding why. It was a secret between my little sister and I what he did. She didn't really remember, but we started to use that against each other to get each other to do stuff like, I'll tell what he did if you don't do the dishes type shit. Like, it was weird. It was we both need a lot of counseling from that time. Like, I've healed myself and I've talked to a lot of folks along the way. I put myself in counseling at 15, but there's a lot that wasn't discussed. There's a lot that I've gone back and apologized to her for several different things. But it was still a very different life for both of us in the same household. In Kansas City, I was like her caregiver. Our parents were never home. My dad was in a whole nother state. My mother would go to work at like 6 a.m., 5, 6 a.m. And we would get up for school ourselves, get ready for school. I remember making easy bake oven for breakfast at some point. Like, we didn't have, my parents were militant. Like, you better know your social. You better know this. You better know the phone number. You better not, don't call nobody. Don't da-da-da-da-da. Y'all keep all our business to ourselves. And it's very hush-hush family. Very, you're responsible for yourself unless I'm around. And even then, it just felt like they were telling us to go get beers and stuff like that. Oh, they've had a long day, so we're just their servants type of thing. But my sister was their baby. There was that was the one that I got. My mom took her time, even in Kansas City. That's when I remember her doing her hair every night before school. But I'm in the bathroom struggling at 7 and 8 years old to get a hairstyle for the next day. And I would cry. I would
You had to
hate
do your
myself.
own hair at 7?
My own hair. And I used to stare in the mirror until I could not recognize myself. Like, I disassociated. So like every time I use the restroom, sometimes I go in there just to do this. I would use the restroom and come out and I was staring into the mirror, washing my hands or afterwards until I didn't recognize myself. And until I didn't know, like, until I was a clean slate, didn't know who I was because all the other stuff was messing with me. Like, the molestation, I didn't know how to explain. My mother treated me like I was a burden to her because I had a problem at night, using the restroom. But you guys are kissing my little sister's butt. Y'all got her hospital bracelets. Y'all have, and they swoon over that stuff every day. Every chance they got, they were, oh, look at your this, look at that. And I'm starting to wonder where the hell my stuff at. And I'm like, oh, okay, so that's weird. And one night I just asked him, my dad was there to visit to help us move and transition from Cali to Kansas City. And I stepped out on the back porch, back deck, and I'm like, so where's my stuff? Why am I this color? Why, what's going on? And they're like shocked, like, oh, it's time. Like, what? What is going on? And they explained to me what was going on about being adopted. I don't think it fully clicked still at 7 or 8. Come on now. And I thought, wow, all this time I thought I belonged to them. And I thought it was a loving family. And I thought everything was normal. So that's kind of why I didn't be like, y'all trusted this kid with us. So it's like, and that's your kid. So I didn't know if it was, normal or what. Then they sexualized everything. My parents were freaks, if you want to say that. My mother was very unfaithful. They argued and fought a lot over both sex. My mother was bisexual. So that's another reason why I think my dad was or whatever. So it was a lot. It's a lot. Like, I feel like we need part 2 because
sounds like a lot in one household. Well, Lisa, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to talk about more about you reunifying with your family, your birth family.
Yes.
How you got to that process and how your childhood affected you as a young mother. So we're going to take a quick break, light shiners, and we'll be right back. Do you need to take a break or anything, love?
No, I'm great. I've been really nervous.
Like, no, you're doing great.
Was so
yeah, I've been ready.
I'm like,
no, you're doing great. You're doing. Welcome back to the show, Light Shiners. Make sure you guys are once again leaving us a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. Make sure you're subscribing to us on Spotify, and make sure that you are subscribing to me on YouTube. We are doing video episodes of all of the new episodes. Sorry, y'all. I know some of y'all asked if we could do the video episodes of the previous episodes. We can't. We didn't have the technology, but now we do. So if you want to watch the episodes that you're listening to right now, hop over to the YouTube. I believe my YouTube is just my name, Carlos Dillard. Hop over to the YouTube and check it out. Make sure you're leaving some comments. I'm sure Lisa and all the other guests would like to hear what y'all think about their episodes in the comments. Be nice. Be nice, because I will delete the not nice comments, okay? But yeah, make sure you guys are sharing the podcast with everyone. Also, make sure you're checking out carlosdillard.com for all upcoming events. There is an announcement, guys. I did miss at the beginning of the show. Starting in February, we are doing monthly newsletters. So there will be a link in my bio for you to sign up for a monthly newsletter. And the newsletter is it's called the Award Connection. And it's going to have like movie suggestions to watch if you're interested in learning about foster care and adoption. We're going to have Light Shiners highlights, where we just kind of highlight adoptees and former foster youth and people in the triad who are doing great work. And then also we're going to have like adoption news that's been going on. So it's just kind of a monthly thing to keep us all kind of on track throughout the year, what's going on with the community, what's going on with the law, especially with our new president. We really have to keep our eyes out, especially for our rights, which are already being, ignored and really just erased. So thank y'all. And without further ado, I want to get back to Lisa's story. So Lisa, you were going through all of this growing up. When did you conceive your first child, and how did your family react to that?
OMG. Well, I graduated high school and wanted to go straight to the military. Well, didn't want to, but I looked at all my options to get away and learn myself. And all three of my brothers had been in the military. And at the time, my favorite brother, the only one that wasn't weird to me for real, he had been stationed in Maryland with his wife and decided that like a week after my high school graduation, I would go with them. And that didn't work out. It was so many issues with that that I came back home and I tried to do like UPS and like try to find other ways to get into the military and still maintain my independence, that the little independence I did have with working all the time. And my parents weren't supportive with anything I wanted to do. It didn't matter what it was. If it wasn't what they wanted me to do at that moment, forget about it. But I told them I was going to the military and they were like, oh, go for it. Well, you're not going to listen to authority. I didn't listen to y'all, but I'm going to listen to somebody that's going to pay me, you know? So I was like, I got to get away from y'all. And my brother's conditions at his home weren't that good. So I came back home. Like, I was not he used me for money and had a whole little situation where I had to, like I said, forget it. And I was only 17 still for a couple months. So I came back home and I went to, like I said, went to UPS. I think I got one of my old jobs back from high school, and then I just worked it out. I had been online. I wasn't dating, but I was online, and Facebook at the time had these weird little games, or like young adults were doing, like, don't judge me, the little numbers and colors and what do you think about me type of thing. Now, I never partook in that stuff before, but then I did this one time, and I met this boy on Facebook. We talked. I wasn't feeling him. I thought he was in the military. I thought he had some stuff going for himself. So I thought, oh, he'd be a cool friend. I didn't like him at first. It took me 6 months to become a friend to him. My parents started some mess. My dad had this Kohl's credit card. I don't know if y'all have Kohl's out there, but it's like little clothing store or whatever. So he put a credit card in my name. I had no idea I didn't know how credit cards worked at the time. Yeah, which was oh my God. It was one of the only great things he did for me as an adult. And I thought, because he just closed the account a couple years ago, I had no idea, because I haven't had the card since I was 18. So I'm like, wow, the fact that he kept it open and kind of used it as Christmas gifts and paid it off, woo, that was good. But I had the card in my possession at this time, and my mother was asking for help because she wanted to start school, and she needed clothes for the school. And I'm like, Mom, you were so irresponsible. So I took her, shot for my mom with the credit card, and when the bill came back, my dad was like, you spent $600 on this? And I'm like, no, I $300 for Christmas for my girls and my sister, and $300 for that trip with my mom weeks later. So when the statement came, it's like I hit the limit. And I'm like, I didn't realize that you never cared before. He's like, your mom already got all this stuff out of me from the divorce. And it was really a fight between them two, because it wasn't a problem when I spent $300 for me and my friends or myself. And so my mother decided to lie and say, oh, I didn't go with her to Kohl's. We went to 2 different Kohl's. honey, I couldn't give you a pair of socks when I got done with you. And she was like, she must have spent it on a boy. Girl, that fucked up our trust right there. Like, I was done with my mom right then and there, done with my dad, because I got kicked out of school because he didn't pay my tuition. Fresh out of, they're federal agents, like there's no FAFSA, so I just got kicked out of classes because I wanted to be, I wasn't going to the military, so I wanted to go to school. I took 2 classes. I paid for one, he didn't pay for the other one, so that forced me to kind of hang out with this guy, because the same night that they did all this arguing over what I spent the money on, when the statement says women's clothing, I call him up. I'm like, hey, I need someone to talk to. I get to crying about everything, and I have been pushing this boy to the side. I've been curbing him for months. So he's very open. He was like, cool, if you want to come over, whatever. And we started off we were friends. The first few months, he introduced me to good music. Nipsey dropped the marathon that year. And that was a game changer for me, learning who he was and all that. So he had great taste in music. I didn't really like weed when I first tried it, but we started smoking and started bonding. And that started my relationship with my son's father, where I got pregnant maybe 6 to 8 months later. We had been kicking it every single day. I would try to start different jobs and try to find myself and make that money so I can get on my own. And I kind of messed up.
It happens. It happens to the best
up.
of us. So during that time, it sounds like you were like a young adult. When did you start to take the steps to find your biological family?
As soon as I got pregnant, I wanted to know health issues, stuff like that. So I had just turned 19 when I found out I was pregnant. I was breaking up with this guy, things just weren't working out. He wasn't as ambitious and stuff. And I was ready to be done with him. And even his mother said, oh, my son ain't worth 2 cents. But when she started downing him, when we were breaking up, I started feeling bad for him, because that's why I'm leaving my family. Like, they treated me like sugar, honey, iced tea. So I figured he needed more love. I don't know what, like, I was just attached and felt bad, because I figured if parents are like this and they're not my biological parents, and then your biological parents are treating you like this, maybe you need more love. I don't know. And so as soon as I was going to break up with him for good, I said, look, I think you need to go to my next doctor's appointment with me. And we went, and at first they said I wasn't pregnant. They said the P stick was negative. I was like, what the hell? I ain't had a period in a month. And his reaction to us being pregnant was so shocking. Like, he was so excited. He's never had children before. He still lived at his parents' house, which is embarrassing. But as soon as we found out we were pregnant, I took it upon myself to move out of my dad's house. I was like, look, I don't know what I'm going to do. But when I found out, I told him, look, I'm going to move in with the dad and his family. I don't want to be pregnant in your house. I don't want to disrespect you, because I know how you feel about that. And I left. And he didn't take that. He didn't take that well. I don't know if it was a control thing, or he felt, like pushed away or whatever. But he didn't like that very much. And while I was living with my baby daddy, whatever you want to call it, I don't usually use that, but I was living with him, and I realized I need to know more about my family. I started doing more research. I had been using this website. I don't remember what it is right now, but it was an adoption website I used to sneak on when we had AOL and the build, whatever it's called. Yeah, there you go, dial up. When we had dial up, I used to sneak on the computer, not to do MySpace and stuff, but to find my family. And my parents used to be pissed when they found out. I was like 12 and on. And so the same website I used at 12, I tried it at 20. And I found a lady that was willing to help me. And she said, well, do you have any of your information? I'm like, well, I only have this information. She was like, no, that can't be all the information that you have if they gave you your packet. My parents fake punked me. They gave me a packet with 2 papers in it, when there's a whole...
It's a whole file. There's a whole file.
Yeah, I reordered it. And when she asked me those questions, I reordered it from San Diego County. And I got it within a few weeks. It took a while. And to find out I was named... My mother expressed herself so in depth. Like, she was so deep with how she felt about me being put up for adoption, what she wanted for me. And everything was a lie. It was just like, wow, they really lied to me my whole life. Who's Lisa? Like,
I tell adoptees that all the time, because so many adoptees, specifically adoptees who are in the fog, they'll be like, oh, my birth parents were drug heads, they were crackheads, they didn't want me.
That.
And I was like,
it'd be far from the truth.
Have you spoken to them personally, or have you read that file? Because if you're depending on what social workers or your adoptive parents are saying, I'm telling you, it's probably not the full truth. Right? So you really need to hear from your parents or that file.
Right. And it's so sad that you can't even rely. And then when I confronted him, like, you told me that, it was just like, I was just, okay, well, what? It's like the attitude, like, okay, well, what you want me to do about it now? Like, okay, apologize. Like, you let
Get
all this stuff happen
over
to
it.
me.
That's what my adopted
That's
mother
the
said.
biggest
Get
thing they
over
told me.
it.
My child being molested by their son, and I came out at 11 with that. They were like, "Oh, get over it," but he can still come around. They put him out of the home the day that I told them, after they guessed what was going on with me over the phone while they're at work. They were like, "Is he doing something to you?" Because I was calling about something else he did. I'm like, he's touching my dad's stereo after he said yesterday none of us can touch it. That's not even his dad. And my mom was like, "Is he touching you?" And I was like, "Girl, what the fuck?" I'm like, if you knew, why would you leave me with him? This is like years after. I was like
Years
13.
after
No, I was like 11.
because the
And I'm
first
like,
time
what?
the first incident happened around at 6, so this is 6 to 7
Yes.
years.
And we've had gaps where he didn't live with us, but he's been living with us now for the last couple of years. Since we moved to Kentucky, they moved him. I was in church camp, a Lutheran church camp, which is a whole nother story. And I came home to what would have been my birthday celebration. My favorite brother, my only brother, really, he bought me B2K tickets. You know how that was back in the day. I was so happy to come home from church camp. I said, forget everything. And I got home and also found out that man was living with us. And like all the memories, everything started flooding in my brain. Like, oh, this is why I've had issues my whole life, or most of my life now. Fast forward to like a year later, after I spoke on what he was doing, I couldn't take it for a year. He was so bold about it, and it pissed me off. He'll do it in the car. My parents driving, they're both in the car. He's in the backseat touching us, or touching me rather. I don't remember him doing anything to my sister. And I remember we were in between moving homes and stuff, and he'll call my name and stuff. And I'll ignore him. I'll just like stay away from him, ignore him, pretend I'm asleep, lock my doors. I got in trouble for locking my doors. I would lock my sister's door and get us in trouble. I stopped caring about getting in trouble. And it's like throughout the years, other people abused me. Cousins out of town. My parents just left us. They just would leave us, and they felt like because of their authority, they could do that. They felt like nobody's gonna mess with you because nobody's gonna mess with me type of attitude, when it's like your whole family doesn't love or respect you. That's why we had to migrate back to see them. And like when we moved here to Kentucky, where they wanted us to all be a big happy family, all of a sudden there's no support now. I haven't talked to my mother's family since she passed 11 years, and I tried to insert myself just to realize you hated my mother. Why the hell were we hosting shindigs and stuff? No wonder we were getting abused. No wonder things were so shady growing up. No wonder all the secrets were, get over it. They don't want to be embarrassed, but you should be embarrassed. Anybody that takes on children, that already has children on top of that, and lets things happen to them without any real justice. You're a federal agent, and you bringing justice to all these little white girls and boys and all these other little kids around the world, but I don't deserve it. I should get over it.
The call is coming from inside the house, it sounds like, right? So with your biological family, you find this website. What was like, how did you find these people? Like, how was the first meeting?
I hate skating around this. It's some things I just don't even think about anymore, but I found the PI. Then I gave her more of the information. I told her what my identifying information stated, what my mother's name was, and all this. She came up with, in like less than 2 weeks, she came up with 2 lists. One was of what would be my birth mother's name, and it was 6 people on that list. And then what would be my brother, who was 3 at the time when I was born, what he, his what his possible name would be. It's so ironic that when we found my mother, I found out her name was Brandy with an I, and she was like 2nd or 3rd on the list. And I reached out to all these people separately, but when I was doing my research and stuff, and I reached out to her, I had a feeling it was her. I was like, whoa, what are the odds? And when I reached out to her, it was the same month my adopted mother had passed. So I had put that on hold, like this whole search. I wasn't worried about any responses or anything like that. What broke my heart about my mom, because once I put the 2 and 2 together, like Brandy my birth brother's name is Randall or whatever. So it was just like, oh, that has to be.
She was like naming you guys kind of like after her, because her name's Brandy. Your
she
name's
named me
Randy.
Lisa. I was adopted.
So did they get that from maybe they knew your mama's name was Brandy, so they're like, oh, we can name her Randy, and she has. Listen, that's kind of gross though.
I don't like them for. How the hell that's gonna be the most important thing to you? And I'm not important, but the cuteness of the name, and get the hell out.
They dropped the B just like they dropped that birth mother. So they just dropped the B and they said Randy.
I can't believe they did that. You got a point. You know what? Damn them. They swear I'm named after their uncle and my great grandmother in the middle name. But I found
a great uncle you never met. Okay.
Honey, hate that
Believe
it's like
that.
I'm still learning stuff about myself, and I can't believe that I went through that as a child, and I can't believe a lot of us have gone through those things. But when I reached out to Brandy, I didn't hear back from her till 2 days after my birthday that same year, and it pissed me off because it's May. I just lost a mother, the only one I did know and struggled with in relationships, and then you waited till July 30th. My birthday's the 28th of July. You had all this time to reach out to me when I told you who I was, and you waited till after my birthday. It's like I don't even care anymore. At that point, I
So,
did care.
not to justify, but like you also have to remember,
Yeah,
birth parents go through trauma too, right?
I know.
Like, can you
I know
imagine
now.
just living your life? You just living
Yeah,
your life, and the child that you didn't even want to give up pops
right.
up.
Oh,
And then
you're
and
right.
then you're like, shit, I don't are they mad at me? Did they have a
Right.
good life? Because when I reached out to my mom, it took her like a couple weeks too. And after I asked her, she goes, Carlos, because I was scared. Because they're human,
Yeah.
our parents are human beings too. She's like, I was scared. I was scared of what had happened, or maybe you were upset, or maybe you're reaching out because something bad, and it turns out horrible things had happened. Right. So we also have to give some empathy to these birth parents, especially the young ones, because it's not like she was 30 years old and she's
Right.
like, I just don't want this child. She was literally
Right.
a
A
child
baby.
herself. She
Yeah.
was a child herself. And that was probably on her mind. You've been on her mind for years. And the reason why she reached out to you after your birthday, because it always happens like that, is because she never
Yeah.
forgot your birthday. Right.
It's
So
beautiful.
you were probably heavy on her heart. And she was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to reach out to my child. So I can't speak for her, but that could be a
Well, thank you for
possibility.
being an advocate for her, because just like I wanted to advocate all these years and I finally have a community, it's like I really still want her to feel like she can talk to someone or get through that. I understand. I think that's what hurts me the most with everyone. I understand. I understand my dad. I understand the boy that molested me. I understand all the
I
other
don't
people.
understand that.
I don't.
But
I
I
don't
think a lot of
either. But
people
it's
who go
like,
through trauma, I think a lot of people like
yeah,
us who go through trauma, we have a higher capability for empathy and sympathy. Like,
right,
because the
right.
world has treated us so bad, we
And I would have wished it on
compared to other
anyone.
people, you wouldn't wish it. So you just like, you know
Right.
what? I know you raped me. You probably had some issue, right?
See, now you say like that, I'm like upset. Now I'm like upset.
And that's really what you got to start telling yourself. Like, nah, fuck these bitches. Fuck these.
For
I'm
real.
like the most compassionate person. Like
Yes.
I will give you the shirt off my back. I will listen in. But then I have to be like, get mad again, because nah, fuck that shit.
That's what saved us. That's what saved me. You know, and me standing up to my dad this year, cutting off my biological mother it's just temporary, unless it's permanent. You know, hopefully it's not permanent. But when I came to find her, I fed her all this. Like I opened up. I told her everything. She broke down crying one night. And I was in his home. I was homeless, and I was like in and out of his home, sleeping in my car outside, all this stuff, because we couldn't get along. And I had to make decisions for my kids, even to send them with their dad that didn't want to do shit as a father to begin with. Like, he's still at home with his parents. He doesn't have to do anything. So I had to make him say, look, my dad is toxic. I was like, look, you knew this when you met me. Take these kids till I get on my feet. And then it still was a struggle. Like, I still had to be homeless with my kids on and off. So, but that helped me finding my mother. And by then I've had 2 kids. When I was telling her what had happened to me, when we first started talking, it was just simply, I'm grateful. I can't believe, like I can't, and I'll try to find out more about my dad. I found out I had 2 siblings in her care that had passed away. It's still not clear if it was an accident or they were murdered. So I don't really trust her with some of the stuff I've learned along the way, because she's not very, let's just say my mama has a pet turtle that she treats like a real kid. And I'll be wondering about my baby's health, mental health.
So listen, people mentally stop that at the age that they were first abused. And if they don't get any help or have access to any help, she might just be a 12, 13, 14-year-old girl mentally.
Wow.
That's how my mother was her entire life.
That don't make sense.
Even when she died at 50, she still behaved, and her responses to issues were that of a 12 or 13-year-old.
Wow.
And then here I am at 25 being like, whoa, woman, like,
yeah,
you got to get your shit together. Like, you can't,
yeah,
this is immature. And
right.
you find yourself kind of almost parenting your parents, because especially if they've experienced trauma and they haven't worked through it, right? Once again, there's that
breaks
empathy.
my heart. Yeah.
But you just like that, there are people inner child will always be a part of them, right? And unless you get
Right.
healing, which is why I tell people, talk about it,
Yeah.
express, don't hold it in, right? Because that's truly healing. Trauma is not linear, and you'll never completely heal from trauma. But the more you
Right.
speak about it, the more you can just be okay with it, right? And you can
Yes.
look at things differently. So, I agree with you. She probably is just that 12, 13-year-old, who got
And it's
pregnant
sad.
really young and had some struggles growing up. And then on top of having 2 children die, and I don't know what else happened in her life, right? I had to learn from my mom. Like I thought, I was like, oh, my mom was I was young as a 4, and she just wanted the thought and boppa hang out on the streets. And then when I reunified with her and I asked her, I was like, how was your childhood? She was like, my mother was a severe alcoholic. She beat the crap out of us. I
Yeah.
was given to men to pay for drugs and beer.
Oh my God, I hate
Then
those
she
stories.
and then she ended up in like mental hospital. She was in foster care by like 12 or 14. She had her first kid at 16.
Oh
A lot.
goodness.
By the time she was 21, she had 4 children.
And
Four
you can
children.
understand, like, hearing
And
her
I'm just like, well,
background,
goddamn.
right? It's like, damn, baby, I need to hold you.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that
Mm-hmm.
way for her, even without the details, because I'm really hurting for my other siblings. Even the deceased. I've got to speak with each of them. Some have stories on the other ones that I didn't know, and it made me kind of stop talking to the ones that violated the other ones. And then the one that didn't do any violating, the one that's left in my mother's care, she's in her mid-20s and she still lives with my mother. And you could tell it's very unstable. And she said she wanted to move out of town with a boyfriend or something. She didn't even tell me why she needed the money.
Mm-hmm.
It was like educational. She's trying to do something better with her life, with a new job and all. She left the boy part out. And so here I am raising 2 children, coming out of poverty, coming out of homelessness, and they're knowing all this stuff. And I'm thinking, well, they wouldn't ask me if, knowing all I've been through and knowing how much I care about, starting a relationship with them. We haven't even got to see each other. We've never met in person yet. Like, I've known them for almost a decade now.
To this day, you
It's
haven't met
over.
them in person yet?
My mother even
Oh,
tried to
hell
convince me.
no. That didn't flow with
Right.
me. As soon as I met them, I was at the door. I said, I'll see you in about 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Because I just
Yeah.
needed to I'm a very much like, I need to confirm and see you in person. That's
And that's
crazy. You
how I
haven't seen
feel.
them.
I have not met them in person. My mother said that she was going to move closer. Being from California and knowing my mother conceived those twins, my sister and one of my deceased siblings, she conceived them here across the bridge in Indiana. So that kind of pisses me off that while I was still in California, you were doing your thing, and I'm hoping that, you're getting your education and stuff. And so she says to me, she's like, oh, well, I'm going to move closer at some point in 2 years into our relationship. She's like, I'm going to move closer to you and help you out and be there for you. And she breaks up with this guy that she's dating online, and that's no longer a thing. But I didn't know that. Like, they keep a lot of stuff until I read the context clues and do my own observation from over here. My mother's still kind of man crazy, boy crazy. It's a new boy on the internet.
One thing that I'll say is that it took the effort from me. None of my family came to see me. I had to go see them. I had to drive the 26
Yeah.
hours. And then after that,
Wow.
I flew my mom to me every year for 1 month, because after seeing
Wow.
the rest of the family, I was like, I love
Yeah.
seeing my siblings, but I wanted more time with my mom because they had gotten
Right.
years with her by herself. So I didn't want to go when I visit mom. I didn't want to have to split it with all my siblings and nieces and nephews and
Yeah.
her
Well, that's
friends and
fair.
her
That's
boyfriend.
fair.
So I told mom, I said, hey mom, once a year, I'm going to fly you. I will go home once a year to see everybody. But then another time I'm going to fly you out. And we did. And that was so much better because she was in my
Yeah.
environment, right? She was in my
Right.
home. I
Oh,
could
wow. She got to know
control my
you.
environment. And she got to know
Oh,
me and my
wow.
life and my husband and my
Yeah.
job and stuff without all of the other distractions of her
Yeah.
regular life. And my mom and my sister died in a car accident in 2018. And I always encourage every adoptee, go see them. Even if you got to take a loan, go just because humans are not guaranteed tomorrow. And the one thing, even though you've connected, you haven't even heard her heartbeat in person yet.
Right.
And I'm
Oh, my
telling
God.
you, hugging your biological parent for the first time after you haven't seen them in years, it's something different. It's something different. I
I
remember,
can't imagine. I can't imagine. It's something you
girl,
want your whole
I
life. Something you want
your
your
whole
whole life.
the first night when I went there, it was late. We got there late. It was like 11:30. So she like had her bedroom set up. And I just kind of went to sleep. Like I hugged her, of course, but like I was so tired. I had just drove from Florida to Michigan straight, like 26
Oh
hours.
my
So I was
goodness.
tired. And so I went to sleep, but then I woke up early in the morning and
Mhm.
I was like a little kid again. Like I woke up confused, like where I'm at. And I was like, wait,
Like
You're at your
Christmas
mom's
morning.
house. You're at your mom's house. So I creep to her bedroom. She's there with her new husband. And I just remember I was 19 years old this time. I like tap her, like I tapped her, and she just lifts up the covers. And then I just, as a grown man, I just slide into bed with her and I just like lay my head on her chest and like everything as a kid that I've always just missed. It was like in that moment, I was like, this is what I was missing right here. And we didn't speak. I just laid
Yeah,
there and I just listened to
that was
her
the most
heartbeat.
beautiful
And
thing.
then our heartbeat literally matched. Like her smell, I remembered it. I remembered her smell. I remembered the heartbeat. I felt so safe. And
Yeah.
everything that had happened before that, the foster care, the adoption, none of that mattered. So
No,
my biggest advice to you, no matter how hard it is, no matter how difficult it is, go see her.
I
Go
will.
see her.
I
And
will.
your children also deserve to see
They do.
that's their only grandmother that they got right now,
Yeah.
right? The
And
other
then
grandmother has passed.
it breaks my heart to
Go see
think,
her.
like, I've been sitting here holding on to the idea that my kids are the first biological family member I got to see look like me, think like have features that I've never seen the same features on anyone else. And my 13-year-old, he's starting to get freckles. I'm like, oh my God, like he really is my baby.
Mm-hmm.
Holding them for the first time and seeing them, like having that initial blood relative for the first time. Oh my God. So I can't imagine, like my own seed is one thing, but my mother, the person I came out of, oh my God.
It's
You're
something
right.
special. It's something
She
special.
tried to get me to move to Alaska. No, because it's like a
Yeah,
whole,
no.
you're not even from
I was
Alaska.
not
So why
moving
would,
to Alaska.
right. And then we have her elder brother that helped take care of her before she started getting pregnant was in Las Vegas last time I checked. And he has a house full. He has my Cuban grandmother, the one that they say acts like she's wonderful. She's like the older version of me. The garden,
Mm-hmm.
she minds her business. She love you, take care of you, feed you. And that's my girl. That's my girl.
That's your
I haven't
girl.
met
I
her
love
yet,
that.
but I think that'll be our meeting point, is that home there. And I know we'll need our separate time, but I'm not going to Alaska. So yeah,
Yeah,
thank
definitely.
you so
Definitely
much for that.
put that on your bucket list. Well, Lisa, we're
Absolutely.
at our time, and I do want to thank you so much for sharing your story. As sporadic as crazy as it was, it made sense. And I'm so proud of you. I want you to know that I'm so proud of you as a Black woman, as a Black mother,
Thank you.
as an adoptee. I want to ask you this, and I ask every guest this. What is one piece of advice that you would give a Black little girl who got adopted? What's one piece of advice you would give her from your lived experience?
I would say when I didn't have anyone else besides God, like God was very important to me. My faith was very important to me, even though I wasn't fully educated. So stay planted firmly into your faith, whatever that is, and know that you'll be okay as long as you focus on being you. I couldn't make anybody happy being what they wanted me to be. I couldn't make myself happy being someone else that it wasn't me. But I had to learn who I was first to know who I was. I had to know who I was before I could love me. And so you see a talent like painting, art, music, invest in yourself because no one else will.
Are those your paintings?
Yeah, that's me. I wanted a nice background.
I've been looking at those the whole time. Those are beautiful.
Thank you. When I'm in pain, I paint. When I'm sad, anything going on, breakup, whatever, I bust one out. But it's really helped me a lot to know that I'm enough. I'm talented, and just because I don't know what I'm talented in doesn't mean that I'm not important, and that's for adoptees and non-adoptees. You love yourself first.
I love
Do
that.
what you can. Yeah.
Well, that's great. If I say, girl, next time you paint and let me know, because I want a piece. I want a custom piece. I'll buy it. I love art. I love custom art too. I love custom art.
Thank you. Oh, wow, that's amazing. Thank you so much for that.
No, thank
problem.
you so much for coming on the Wards of the State podcast and being vulnerable. And I know I push a little bit. I was pushing you a little bit. I was like, come on, share your,
I know,
because it's hard to unpack. It's hard to unpack, but it's a safe space. And I hope that you felt safe here. And I hope that you continue to share your story and continue to advocate for yourself, your inner child, and other children in this country that go through everything. And I want to remind all the light shiners that no matter how dark life gets, just keep shining. This is why I say always shine your light, because you can inspire someone just by, even if you're dim, even if you're low, your light still shines bright in a completely dark room. So keep shining, Lisa.
Thank
I
you.
can't
Keep
wait to
shining colors.
see.
Love you.
I can't wait when we do our part 2, because I usually try to do a follow-up episode in a year or two. So I can't wait to see, like, I've met my family. We went to Vegas. I met my grandma.
Yeah,
I cannot wait to
absolutely.
hear that story. But until then, I wish you nothing but love and light. And light shiners, always shine your light. And we will see you guys next episode. Bye now.
Bye, you guys.